So your entire life, all you've ever done is climb upward through school, then into the corporate ranks, getting promoted, getting the MBA, upward, upward, upward. Now, inside, you want out of corporate life. You have very good reasons for this, and you want to become a founder. Now, what you're going to have to learn is that for the first time ever, you're going to have to intentionally go down, go backwards, let go of the upward climb. Let's dive in. Quick example to get us going. Josh Waitzkin, famed chess prodigy as a kid. He was the one featured in Searching for Bobby Fischer in the movie. Now, he spent years at the top of his game, chess grandmaster, crushing it, world tournaments, world renowned. Now, he got to the point where he said, you know what? I no longer want this life. I want to be a champion in something new, in Tai Chi. Had never done it before. So what he did is he let go of chess and he put himself in a new situation. He went to classes in New York City, and for 7 years, he got his ass kicked, getting pushed down again and again so he could learn all the maneuvers of Tai Chi. He went through what he called something very important. Stick this in your brain. Investment in loss. Now, investment in loss is the very deliberate letting go of what was so that you can create what needs to be. You need to invest time, money, energy so that you can wind down what no longer should exist and actually build a new chapter. So with all that work, 7 years later, guess what? He was the world push hands champion in Tai Chi after all that deliberate pain of getting knocked down, of learning all the maneuvers. So fast forward, he learned to be absolutely the best in the world at something new. And that principle is what carried me forward a lot when I was going through corporate graduation myself back in those days, is knowing that we don't just jump from something amazing to something amazing. That's not how the world works. We actually have to go through an investment in loss so that we can get to a new state that's even better. So let's be honest, you've likely never done what Waitzkin did. Neither had I before I went through corporate graduation myself, which was a deliberate investment in loss, a stepping back, release of credentials, all the way to the point where I stopped funding my certifications. I let go of paying dues for associations that felt good, that looked good. I stopped paying attention to industry articles and publications and all that jazz. I needed to completely let go of that, let it ramp down carefully, smartly, so that I could create the space to build the new chapter. To date, your entire life has been ladders, right? You've been climbing this one, then the next one, and the next one. This might look like you graduate undergrad. Then you get into corporate, your first job. Then you get the MBA. And then you get eventually the director role. And then the VP role. And where does this stop? Eventually, we're going to reach some sort of top of food chain status, maybe. I don't know. There's only so many spots at the top anyways, but for many reasons, you probably don't want that anymore. You're at a state where you're like, you know what? I might be like right here and I need to get out. This isn't for me anymore. So we're going to have to let go of this ladder mentality altogether because it doesn't serve what we need to do going forward. So I like to think of it as a visual. So let's say you are at the top of a cliff, okay? You're up here and then you want to get to the other side where you are from here to there. Let's say from corporate to founder. And to get to that state, ideally, we would love to just make it nice and easy and we cross this nice, beautiful bridge. But no, that's not how it works at all. Effectively, we're going to need to navigate something a little bit more difficult than that. It's what Waitzkin would show as the valley, the investment in loss. I love what actually Seth Godin calls, the author, calls it the dip. If you think about the dip, okay, this is the dip. And it's more like, okay, we're on one cliff. We're going to have to trudge our way down and it's getting dark. It's getting cold and it's muddy and you've got thorns sticking at you and you can't see clearly. And you're going to have to walk 3 miles across the Grand Canyon or however many miles that is. You're going to have to walk through a lot of hard things and it's going to be difficult. You're going to be hungry. You're going to be starving. You're going to be thirsty. You're going to have to work through all of that to then have a chance at climbing up out of the dip and getting to the other side so that you can become that founder, to fully graduate corporate life, to release what no longer serves you. That's more of what we're going to have to go through. Now, breaking that down, there are 6 big things that you're going to have to go through. And you wouldn't voluntarily choose any of these, but I can tell you, having gone through this myself and having worked with hundreds of people who are at the senior levels of corporate life and want to get to the other side and build an entrepreneurial future and actually be a founder, these are the things we have to navigate. So I want to implant them in your mind so you look for them and you know that going through them is absolutely part of this whole journey. All right, first piece is identity reset. You've been going to the top of the food chain for years now, right? So if you take, say, a good old corporate pyramid and you're at this top part somewhere, right? VP, senior director, C-suite, you're up here like, okay, I'm used to being at the top. I hold myself in this place. But what we're going to have to do is change that. Because now when we go from here, we're going to have to go back to this layer again and realize that we have to be a beginner again. We have to embrace that as a beginner, this is our greatest launch point, knowing that we're going to have to learn from people who are further along than we are. We're going to have to learn some skill sets, some mindsets that we don't have. Because as capable as you are, right, let's pretend this is your toolkit that you've accumulated over corporate life, right? There's a lot that will pull forward. Let's say that maybe this first third pulls forward, but there's a lot that doesn't translate well into being a founder, right? This stuff actually doesn't apply. So we're going to ask ourselves, well, what are the new mindset skill sets? What do I need to learn around positioning, marketing, sales, delivery, operations as a founder of my own business? Do you want to talk about how radically different that is in your own business, under your own name, with a concept you designed on your own? Far different than plugging into a machine that someone else built and playing one small role where you're just turning the wrench. As big as that might have felt to you before, it's not very big compared to what you're going to now own as a founder, okay? We've got to learn to be a beginner again and embrace the reality of being at the bottom, learning from people that are ahead of us now in this new game. Now, the second piece is status inversion. So again, you might be someone we talked about before. If you're, say, 52 right now, it's a common age that I work with. People have got 20, 25 years of corporate capital, career capital to work with. Right now, well, guess what? We're going to have to go back down here. And next thing we know, we are here learning from someone who is 25 to realize that they are further ahead. They've been coding in AI for the last 18 months. They know how to expertly position themselves across social platforms. They know how to use different platforms that exist out there that you don't. They know how to get products out there under their own name that you don't know how, to use modern channels by which to actually get attention. We're going to actually have to learn to get very comfortable with learning from the 25-year-old. Now, we're not always learning with someone like quite half our age. I have mentors that are as young as mid-20s and people that are 10, 20 years my senior and everything in between. But the reality is you need to know what outcome do you need in your life, and can you prepare yourself to be in a new status where you're learning from these folks all over again. Third piece then is going unknown. So right now you are used to being somebody, someone who is known in their industry, someone that has a reputation, that has experience, where you look at the history in LinkedIn, that all maps cleanly, these things stack, rising up, earning more credibility, more skill, more accomplishment. You're somebody in the thing that you do right now, whether it's marketing, engineering, sales, finance, whatever it might be. Well, guess what? We're going to have to get very comfortable with now being nobody for a period of time. People won't know what the hell you're doing, that you even are doing it, or why you're doing it in the first place. Friends and family will be like, why are you disrupting this path? Your old colleagues won't even apply anymore. So those that I still have contact with from my corporate life, I spent 15 years in management consulting. I talk to like 0.1% of those people anymore. We're just on different trajectories, completely different spheres, right? Like I went this path, they continued on the old path. They have a very different life, and I'm okay with that, because when you are choosing to be a nobody again, what you're really doing is saying goodbye to relationships that don't serve you and embracing a new tribe, a new energy, new mentors, new ideas, all in service of the new trajectory. Because the people, ideas, energy, all of that in your old life does not apply when you are going into this new chapter, when you're graduating corporate and becoming a founder. Becoming a nobody requires you to go back down to that beginner stage and realize that we have to reinvent and we're going to be unknown for a period of time. And that's very uncomfortable because you've been known for years now. We have to get comfortable with this. Let the idea go. Building on that, this is going to feel very isolating. I want you to be prepared for the fact that you're going to feel lonely on this journey. Now, you want to round this out with new people, but I'll tell you, people like spouse, a partner, if you have older kids, certainly your colleagues, certainly friends, and probably extended family members, these people will not get what the hell you're doing in graduating corporate. They're going to look at something and say, like, listen, you had this perfectly logical life on paper. This looked really good. Why the hell would you get rid of it all? They're not going to get it. And guess what? They're not supposed to get it. Only you are. Only the people that you're on this new path will. They'll get you, but you've got to go find them, right? It goes back to the idea of getting comfortable with isolation. There's actually a lot of goodness here because in isolation, one of our core principles in corporate graduation is the idea of space, right? So that when you have space, when you're isolating from all that noise, where we're not letting this stuff infiltrate our minds anymore, their ideas and their opinions of us, they don't matter. So in living in space, the beautiful part here is you're going to be able to tap into creativity, intuition, and you need this sort of thing for yourself. You need the ability to actually get quiet and think through, what does this path look like? What is the new vehicle? How game-changing is that business? Who are you helping? Can I get excited by the thing I'm helping them with? What's that product look like? It is very elegant, has this amazing outcome, this great experience. You have to get quiet. And I'd argue isolation, especially from all that noise that doesn't serve you anymore, is absolutely necessary to build this new path. So it's a feature, not a bug. So the fifth piece is losing social proof that you're credible and relevant in this world. So you're probably up here on the corporate ladder right now. You've got a lot of credentials, things people would look for. You've got titles, histories, credentials, accomplishments, numbers you've hit, all that stuff. Well, guess what? You're going to have to, once again, from a cost perspective, let go of this. And while everyone else is saying, oh, look at my amazing promotion. Oh, look at my new MBA. Look at my new Harvard AI certificate, which doesn't mean jack if you're not building with it, by the way. If they're all focused on this thing, your jealousy meter is going to register through the roof. And well, guess what? We can't actually let that affect us because it doesn't apply anymore. You have to know that if we're going through a dip, right? If we're going through this journey down here, this part is going to require us to lose social proof, to be unknown, to be a nobody for a while, and that our credentials, our skills that we're building aren't the highly marketable things where we say, I'm excited to announce new job on LinkedIn. Come on. That is for the old economy. That is not where you're going. We don't play those games. You quietly build amazing businesses, assets, products that change the lives of your family and the people that you're meant to serve in this world. And it should light you up. That's what we are doing. So of course it's going to make sense. You're going to lose social proof. You're going to have to go through a dark, quiet building phase. That's part of the journey. Now the last piece. This is touchy, okay? When we go back to the investment and loss principle, let's say you're making bank. Let's say a lot of my clients, they'll be upwards of like, okay, comp package of 600K, right? All things considered, all that thrown in. It looks beautiful. They're like really proud of the whole thing, as they should be. They worked really hard to create this situation. Well, knowing that a dip is part of the process and that we have to navigate this whole piece right here, we have to ask ourselves, can we, for our future sake, be willing to navigate a pay cut, right? Now, this is why I'm very thoughtful in corporate graduation that we ramp down the old path so that we can then ramp up concurrently the new path. I don't like tossing a great salary in the trash can immediately before you're ready to do it. But we have to do things like corporate compression, right? When we compress corporate, we can still maintain the salary for a bit of time, right? If we compress it down, say by 50%, and we're down to like 25-hour weeks, as an example, even at like an SVP role, suspend your disbelief. It is very possible. If you can do this, we don't have to let go of that goodness yet, but we're going to have to redirect our energy to building the new chapter and get comfortable that, the first win is going $0 to $1. Your first entrepreneurial dollar is the most amazing money you will ever make because it signals to your brain a whole new future is possible for me, a whole new path that I never gave myself permission to pursue. That was always for other people. Now it's mine. You're like, oh shit, I'm in this game. We are doing this. So that $1 represents a lot because then we can go to 1,000. We can get to 10,000. We can get to 100,000. Proof of concept, the ability to say this thing can get bigger because we're learning, we're doing, we're building. But we have to realize that whether we choose to let go of that 600K on our timeline or it gets decided for us, which is increasingly happening, we have to have confidence that we can make this build out happen down here. We can get there. We can stack, and this is much more in our control and of our own design than anything corporate will ever hand us. That was always a rental situation. Down here, this is an ownership situation. For the first time, you control the stakes, you control the equity. This is yours. So we're going to have very careful, practical looks. Like, what is our runway? If I think about all assets on hand, right? Assets, savings, investment accounts, cryptocurrencies, whatever you have access to, theoretically, how much time could that buy you? I'm going to guarantee you in most situations, it'll be a lot longer than you ever contemplated. Imagine saying, I've got enough runway where I could confidently burn for 12 to 24 months and create that new life. Not that you want to go that long without income, or I'm saying you have to, but imagine if you had 1 to 2 years where you could fund the build out of your new life, which was forever improved. Would you not want to do that? Would you just let that money stay in the bank for a rainy day while you tolerate a corporate path that no longer serves you? Or would you actually invest in loss, use the money you've been accumulating, investing in yourself, in coaching, in mentorship, in the build out of a business, which is not that expensive in the grand scheme when you're bootstrapping it yourself. We're not talking about needing VC money, but can you actually tolerate a pay cut knowing that that first dollar can compound to 10 to 1,000 to 10,000 to 100,000, knowing that that's an entirely different future? Can you tolerate that pay cut? Can you actually have that tough conversation with your spouse? Can you run the scenario planning with your financial planner and make sure they actually understand entrepreneurship and why you would do this? And then we're not just like playing the silly retirement game. If you're listening to me, you probably don't want to play the retirement game at all. So let's just throw that aside. We're playing a very different game. Build an asset, build a life, make it earn so much and be so enjoyable that you never want to stop doing it. That's the game, not retirement. I don't even use that word. It doesn't belong in my household. So you understand that's the idea. The sixth cost is being able to tolerate a pay cut, be able to see it as a real investment and loss because it creates a much bigger future. So everyone that I work with in our corporate graduation program realizes sooner rather than later that these costs are just a necessary part of the dip, right? The dip is what we have to go through to get to the other side because there is no magical jumping from hugely successful thing today to great successful thing tomorrow. It's not that magical. We don't live in fantasy land. And we have to go through real growth, real trials, real experiments to get to a new state. Thoughtfully without disrupting all you've got, obviously. We do that smartly in corporate graduation. But to get to the other side, you need to have trust in yourself that you've got that career capital, that you've got the drive, that you've got the hunger to make this work. This is not for the faint of heart. But if you understand in advance, all of these 6 costs are just a necessary investment to pay in your corporate graduation, And when you get through it, you start to realizing you're not abnormal. It's not a fear that's going to overwhelm you, but you see the fear, you stare it dead in the eyes, and you engage it. You say, you know what? I'm going to be a beginner again. I'm going to take a pay cut. I'm going to have to learn to make my first dollar under my own name. I'm going to learn from people that are half my age. So what? That's all part of the journey. Get excited by it. Use it as fuel. So the bottom line is that going through the dip is the exact path forward. The dip is the way. We have to go through all of this in order to get to the other side over here, where we are really fulfilled as a founder, and we've navigated these costs with intention, with a knowingness that this is all part of the journey. Now, if you take to heart everything I'm saying and realize that these costs are just a necessary investment and loss to build the new life, I urge you check out this next video on our full corporate graduation blueprint right here, also in the show notes. This shows you bit by bit everything it takes to go from corporate to founder in 1 year. We go through all the pieces that we need to do, all the outcomes, all the methods, so that you have a full view on everything it takes. We covered a sliver here today, but there's so much more depth. Check out the full training, and I'll see you in the next one.